So you can take a moment to close your eyes and just gently call yourself into this space, this sacred space that we have together for the next hour or so. And you can take a couple of deep breaths. And direct your breath to your womb or to your Hara center for George. It's actually the very same location, the power center. And while you breathe, I want you to really tap into this feeling that this power center is connected to your feminine energy. This is your second chakra. This is where your feminine energy resides. And call all of yourself into this moment, fully into your body. And feel your connection to Mother Earth. Intentionally set yourself grounded. She is the source of your feminine power. Holding you in gravity, holding you in love, in nurturing, in so much abundance. And as you connect to your power center, and bringing your intention there, breathing there, I want you to fully connect to your feminine energy. To the creative force that is within you. And whatever comes up for you is all welcome. And take another deep breath. Feel that channel between your womb and Mother Earth, the womb of this planet. and you may open your eyes when you're ready. Right, so today we are diving into the feminine, and the feminine is the energy that is so needed on the planet at the moment. It has been suppressed and oppressed for many, many years. It's been misunderstood, mistreated, misguided, and we collectively and globally paying the price for that. And if you're familiar with my work, I don't praise the feminine over the masculine. They are both sacred and they are both as powerful and as needed and as amazing as each and one of them, but they're very different. And we all have both of them in us. And yet the feminine is the energy that connects us to the mystery, connects us to our intention, envision, manifesting, to our creativity, to anything and everything that we want to birth into the world. And for all of us, no exception, the feminine energy was primarily, most powerfully shaped by the most important feminine model in our life, which is our mother. And she was our first role model for the goddess energy, that full, sovereign, powerful, feminine energy that all of us have within us. And really what we're doing in this work is not learning anything new. We're just unlearning everything that stands in our way to know who we are and what's our power. So we want to get rid of the conditioning. We want to get rid of what we've been told that is not true to who we are. Anything that puts us down, that diminishes our power, that makes us fit into a certain culture or set of behaviors that was passed by generations. And all have that incredible source of power that comes from the feminine that is very throughout the lineage of our ancestors has been damaged, has been wounded. And this is true for all of us, no matter which culture we comes from, which part of the world. If we look at our mothers and the grandmothers and their mothers, they had to live a very, very wounded life because of the circumstances that we all coming from. And it's only in the past really few years, right? 50 years, 60 years, since the movement of the feminism that we are unleashing slowly by slowly the power of the feminine. And if you're familiar with my personal story, I had a very, very dominant mother wound. I had two mothers in my life. I had my biological mother, which I saved from committing suicide when I was 6 years old. And that completely transmuted our dynamic of a relationship, because now I became her therapist, her saver. I wasn't the little girl that she was nurturing, and I was in this innocent world. I had to step up to be the figure that wants to keep her alive and wants to make her live. And then, of course, if you're familiar with my story, I was sexually abused by her man, and she didn't believe me, and we parted when I was 10 years old, with a lot of trauma involved in that relationship. And she stayed with that man. She's actually with him till today. She had another children with him. And I moved to live with my father, and who became my stepmother, which did not wanted me there from day one. From the moment we landed there, I overheard a conversation that my father and her had in the bedroom, and my father said, I brought my daughter, and she said, I don't want her here. And that was the tone that set the dynamic of our relationship. So I was very, very wounded by the feminine, and I knew it, and it was clear, and I knew that is a huge piece of my messiness at the time. And so I embarked on a healing journey, on a spiritual journey, where I wanted to heal myself, completely selfish, completely for my own good. I just couldn't live in my own skin. And I knew that I need to heal the mother wound. So I took myself into really all the corners of the world to do so. I spent months in the ashram in Pune doing intense childhood work, and in Peru and in Costa Rica and in Bali. And I really, I've done a lot of work healing the mother wound. And what was really astonishing for me and actually brought me to do this work is that I found that each and every person I came across has the mother wound. It's not only me. My story was maybe one of the most obvious, or most kind of like, it was very clear. The signs were all there. But for so many people, the mother wound is not clear. It's actually very, in some cases, it is clear. Of course, I'm hearing a lot of stories about very deep and painful mother wounds, but in some cases, it's not that clear. In some cases, it's very subtle. In some cases, it's really a mother that did not heal her own wounds and passing that to her children with the best of intentions to raise them well and love them well, but unknowingly passing on her unresolved issues. And so the good news is that we have the power to transform that, right? And that power comes with a big responsibility, because that means that we actually have to do the work. But all of you here are on the path of doing the work. So I just want to take a moment and tap you on your shoulders and give you a virtual hug, because you are here and you are willing to look at the places that are maybe less sexy to look at, right? And we kind of many times want to just bury it somewhere and never deal with it ever again. But the truth is that we can't just bury things, because they are deep within our psyche and they want to be resolved, and they're looking for resolution, and they will keep knocking on your consciousness for resolution, because that pain that is not processed and not understood, and you didn't go through it, will keep triggering you until you do. And you all know what triggers mean, right? Where you all of a sudden have a huge emotional reaction for something that is seemingly not so big. So it's not really what the partner said or the neighbor did, or on the road, the other driver. It's usually something that is activating something much deeper and much more intricate within you that is looking for resolution. So really transforming the mother wound is the portal to connect to the divine feminine, that energy of the goddess that you have within you, that will allow you, if you really connect fully to it, to manifest your life the way you meant to, the way you envision, the way you choose to, and it can bring you that sense of fulfillment and creativity, and really aligning to your soul, right? This is the power of clearing the mother wound. And the way that I recommend to clear the mother wound, of course, I wrote about it in the book, chapter 2, which is Chakra 2, and this is what we're focusing on for today. And one of the ways is to activate your inner mother. And so, because we all have the feminine and the masculine energy inside of us, this is part of who we are, we also have that inner mother and inner father inside of us. And when I talk about activating the inner mother, is really tapping into that ideal mother that you would wish for yourself, and what you would wish that she will give you, teach you, share with you, and doing that for yourself, for your inner child. And a big part of being a mother, and I'm talking about myself as a mother, I have 3 children. My boy is 17 and I've got girls of 13 and 10. And I think that the most important quality that I can bring into my motherhood will be acceptance, love, and compassion. And so these are the qualities that I want to invite you to bring into your own being, to activate within you towards yourself. And so there is that ideal mother that we all have a picture of, right? And maybe it's a mother that hugs more, or maybe it's a mother that is more open for conversation. And maybe it's a mother that is more supportive. And maybe it's a mother that is not controlling and not overtaking, right? And so whatever that ideal mother looks for you, I just want you to take a moment, and if you feel more comfortable, you can close your eyes. And I want you to visualize that ideal mother that you would desire or yearn for. And that also includes your relationship. So it's the figure of the mother, and then the relationship, the sense of feeling that you want to feel in that relationship when you
traditional
relate.
Coaching model launch thing, right? Lately. I'm just checking out like what she does, but also
and really take a moment just to see what it feels for you. And what I'm saying, what does that move in you? Like, is it creating?
Right? That's what I'm saying. These people are doing this huge,
maybe sadness or grief, or maybe joy and happiness. Maybe you had a mother that was really,
I'm just like looking at like different
your ideal
coaches
mother,
who are doing this model.
that's all the blessings on you,
do.
then you are definitely a powerful goddess.
Because I don't believe it.
And George, I'm including you in that,
right?
because
anybody
when we speak about the masculine, then
this woman wrote a book.
We also all have the God within. So I'm really, it has nothing to do with gender.
She's got a pretty big. I kind of found out about her through.
And so if you have that ideal picture of a mother, I just want to invite you to take an inner inventory, like to reflect within and see if you relate to yourself.
Excuse me. Can you ask Krista to mute, because I'm hearing her conversation and you at the same time, and I put it in the chat. So if Krista could mute, that would be great. Sorry to interrupt you. It's just, I hear her talking and I can't hear you. Krista needs to mute, that's all. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? Because something is going on in the chat and I think that you are trying to say something to me. I just want to make sure that you can all hear me. Okay, so you can hear me. Okay, so please unmute yourself. Mute yourself. And if you have any questions, I will gladly answer them at the end. I will give you some time to ask questions. And so here we are in this stage of our collective mess, which we can all see very clearly, no matter what is your personal views on what's going on. One thing we can all agree is that things are messy. And I personally really believe that fear and love are the two energies that are on the same scale, right? That's the two opposite energies that are available, and then everything is on that scale, right? There's only love and fear. And when we are willing to walk the path of love and let fear aside, and we can really meet what is inside of us from a place of love rather than a place of fear, then transformation happens. And when we are able to acknowledge, first of all, what happened to us in our childhood, because who we are is a direct link to what childhood we had. Especially the first 7 years is when we are wired by the people in our life and by our society. And so we spend the rest of our life to unlearning and unwiring what does not true to us and aligns with us. And by understanding that, and by giving ourselves a helping hand, because really ultimately you are your own healer, you are your own medicine woman, medicine man, shaman, therapist. Other people can support you, can guide you, can direct you, can hold a safe space for you, but only you are able to go through the healing. And to go through the healing is to go through the healing. And so if your relationship with your mother is in any way feels painful or feels complicated or feels uncomfortable, then I just want to reassure you that going through that journey is how you find your power. It's part of how you find your power. And by going through that journey of healing, that's when you almost receive keys to unlock your inner doors of greatness, because you went through that process and you came on the other side always wiser and expanded. So I just want to take a moment and ask you to write in the chat what are the qualities that you see in the perfect mother. I just want to see what most are referring to. What would you, like if you have to picture the ideal mother, what qualities are you envisioning? Attentive. So there's empathy, acceptance, tenderness, kind and gentle, compassionate, communicate lovingly, tender hugs. Validation that you are worthy, exist. Right, so appreciation, acceptance. So here are the quality that I invite you to cultivate in your life for yourself, And when you do, that's a place where you can heal that gap. However it looks for you, you can heal that gap in the relationship with your mother. When you feel yourself with these qualities, when you accept yourself, when you accept your so-called failures or so-called weakness or shadow, when you accept the less loving parts, right? I just want to share with you something so profound that I've heard directly from Dr. DeMartini when I interviewed him for my last summit. And he said something that really changed a lot for me because I tend to be very, what's the right word? I demand a lot from myself. I'm like, I want to do things the best I can. I'm quite a perfectionist. I had to go through a long path to really release that in myself and love me for who I am, as I am, with all my ups and downs and less lovable parts. And when he said that, it really brought things for completion for me. And he said that he's a human behaviorist researcher, and he wrote many books and did many amazing things. You're really a leading authority in consciousness today. And he said that he went through each and every human quality in the dictionary, and he first of all he understood it, but more than that, he wanted to own it in himself. He wanted to really own it and find a moment in his life where he displayed that quality. And he said that some qualities were not so nice to look at, and yet when he really dived into that quality, he could find a time where he would display that quality in a certain situation with a certain person, certain time in his life. But he could own all the 2,000 something qualities, human behavior qualities that were in the dictionary. And so what does that mean? It means that we all have everything that in a certain dynamic, you might display being greedy. And you might not like the identification that you are a greedy person. You might much rather be identified with being generous. But if you dig into your life, would you find a time that you displayed being greedy? Yes, you can. Same goes for being jealous or being envy or being a liar, dishonest, right? I mean, you want to feel that you're an honest person, but could you dig into your life and find a moment where you display dishonesty? Of course you can. So what does that mean is that we have everything in our potential and we display everything at one point in our life. Some qualities we maybe display more than others, and surely we want to identify ourselves with certain qualities rather than others. But the truth is that we have all of it. And when we understand that, we can love and accept ourselves in a holistic way, in a more forgiving way, right? And saying, okay, so there is a piece in me that might be dishonest, and there is a piece in me that might be greedy, and I can still love and accept myself. And when you do that, you are filling a gap of whatever messages you received from all the adults in your life and all the other teachers and educational figures that you had. But here we're concentrating on the mother as such an important, pivotal point of reference in our life. And you know, we grow in her body. I mean, what is more profound than that? We literally physically part of her thoughts, of her emotions, of what she eat, of what she carry, of everything. We literally are growing in waters, and then we come to the world through her vagina. I mean, it's you know, when you think of this whole journey, it's mind-blowing, right? And we nurture from her breast. I mean, of course, if we're lucky, some of us have missed that period, and this is such a big thing. And then for so many of our mothers, it was really, really challenging role. It was unsupported by society at large, and sometimes by even the family. And especially in the latest years, we are not living in tribes as we used to, and it can feel very isolating, and it can feel very overwhelming, and it can feel very so full of responsibility. And so many mothers just have a burnout, and they just can't deal with this challenging relationship. And you know, even myself, I consider myself to be a conscious mother from conception to birth to raising my children, and my children are amazing. They are mind-blowing amazing. But even I can say that as a mother, it's the most difficult work in the world. It's challenging 24/7, if not physically, then in the mind. Then guilt for not behaving in a certain way. And there's so much, it's so involved. It's such a difficult role to be a mother. And if there's other mothers here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So not to blame anyone. It's really, you must understand, I'm not coming from a point of blame. That's the least of all. I'm coming from the point of awareness, of knowing that we are a certain way because of what we went through, but we don't have to stay there. In other words, we don't have to be the victims of our upbringing or our childhood or our reality up until this point. We really have the power, the feminine power that resides within our body to envision a different life, or a different circumstances, or a certain change that we want to. We have that power. And the way to get there is to heal that mother wound. That's really the link. That's really the missing piece of, if you're not fully connected to your feminine power, is because that relationship to the goddess, to the feminine, is wounded in some way, shape, or form. And what's amazing about doing this work is that if you do have a complicated relationship with your mother, it's mostly to get better, because you understand things so much better. You become different. You don't get triggered as fast and as quickly. Then the whole relationship changes. The whole dynamic changes. But it's really not about so much the relationship you have with your physical mother, whether she's still alive and you're still in some way in a relationship. It's about your inner relationship to your feminine energy, and to your inner mother, and to your inner goddess, right? So it's both ways. That's a reflection. She's the closest person to resemble the creator for you, the goddess energy for you. And the way to heal that relationship inside of you is to first of all, activate your inner mother and give yourself everything you yearned or long to get from your physical mother. And it sounds simple because it is, because really healing is simple. Healing is not complicated. Spirituality is not complicated. It is all very, very simple if we understand the fundamental of it. And so, first of all, I also don't want to bypass the pain, right? So although I'm not blaming no one for nothing, I really look at things as they evolve to where they are because of the past and because of what happened in the narrative. Yet the pain is very valid. So every child that has felt not fully accepted, not unconditionally loved, not seen or belong, has pain, and that pain is real. And although you can find millions of excuses and you can say, oh, but my mother was, maybe she was sick, or maybe she was too busy to earn money, and maybe she was, whatever the excuse may be, it's all legit, it's all right, it's all okay. But the pain of the child is still very valid, and it's usually there, and it doesn't go away until or unless it's been processed. And so how do you process that pain? So of course, my most powerful way to suggest is really the natural way of the body to process pain. And the body knows what to do. And of course, one of the most profound ways is crying. And crying is a very interesting one, because we as babies use cry to communicate, right? Crying is so fundamental for babies, and yet it is so very difficult and emotionally challenging for mothers and fathers. And I've seen it with myself, and it's been such an amazing and interesting journey that I had as a mother with my firstborn, with Kai, about crying. And I'm not going to get into it. It is in my book because I don't want it to diverse from the message. But we as a society has been also, because, well, we removed from a lot of natural ways and things, but we had a very negative, most of us, not all, but really most of us. And I'm talking about, I've been seeing so many people and clients and groups, and it's really so true for so many of us, and especially men, that crying was perceived as not okay. And there was some kind of a message, either direct or indirect, that crying is not accepted, that other behavior is more accepted than crying, and therefore crying should be stopped, should be behind closed doors, should be even punished for in some cases, right? We all heard the saying, maybe not in our family, but we heard that saying of like, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you a reason to cry for. And yet crying is the body's own way to heal itself, to release chemicals that stresses us, and through the liquid, through the tears. And we all know that after crying, we feel better, we feel more serene, we feel in more peace. It's really a healing on its own. It's not the problem, it's a solution, right? We make it as crying is the problem, but crying, we don't even have to have a very specific reason why we cry. We can just cry to discharge, we can cry to heal, we can cry to release pent-up emotions. And I want to even take it further. something that I have discovered in my own journey, and I know that it's really taking healing even further, even to the next level. And this is what I call belly crying. So it's crying with your whole body. And if you ever had experience belly laughter, right? You know that it's something that you can barely control. You can laugh so much and so loud until snot comes off your nose, and you can't control it, and you hold your tummy and you feel those contractions and you wail, and you can do silly things. You can't stop it. It's taking over you, right? So if you allow yourself, and I'm saying that because to allow yourself is just to realize that it's okay, and that you are there for yourself, and that it's actually welcomed, then you can surrender to crying and allow belly crying to happen. And when belly crying happens, when you really go release yourself into the crying without holding back, without a fear that you will cry so much that you will never stop, or you will get into that black hole that you can't come back from, because I'm just repeating things that I've heard from people saying. So know that if you allow yourself to go into belly cry, it feels like belly laughter, in a sense of the body reactions. There are those same contractions, and you just let yourself go. And this is quantum healing therapy, literally. If you allow yourself to just dive into crying for whatever is painful for you, and you hold yourself in all those qualities that we mentioned as the inner mother, right? In acceptance, in compassion, in tenderness, in kindness, in love, in care, all of that, while you cry, you will come out on the other side transformed. You will feel lighter, you will feel more resilient, you will feel more peace, you will feel more space, more inner space. So really, there's no other way to deal with the mother wound than a good cry. Really, honestly, that's fundamental. So for those of you that do feel that they have to do some work around the mother, I really invite you to take an opportunity to go somewhere, ideally in nature, because then you feel Mother Nature holding you in her care and tenderness and kindness and acceptance and all that, because she's there for you all the time. And when you're wrapped in her loving arms, when you're on the beach or on the top of the mountain or in the forest, and you surround yourself by her and her beings, you feel more held. You're not alone. You don't have that feeling of being alone. And if you can allow yourself to bring yourself into crying and really surrender to that crying, really hold yourself and let yourself go, let yourself cry, and let yourself belly cry. This is such a profound healing therapy. I really cannot think of anything that comes close to that either than breath work. That's my second most recommended healing modality that really quantum leaps you in the way you feel, in the way you transform pain into power, right? Because this is the alchemist work that is possible for you, is to take your pain, for whatever pain. Today we're concentrating on that mother wound, so I'm referring to the mother pain, but really any pain. If you allow yourself, without fear, ditching fear aside, knowing that with the power of love, with the power of your love, of your care, of your tenderness, you can hold yourself through those feelings that are not feeling great. I'm not sugarcoat it. It's not great to feel pain, but if pain is there, pain is there. You can't run away or spiritually bypass it or pretend it's not there. It's going to keep haunting you. It's going to keep coming, rising up, and you're going to forever get triggered by it. So if you want to completely transform that pain into power and purpose and peace and presence and prosperity even, and passion, and have you noticed all the P's, right? How wonderful P can be transformed, pain can be transformed into all these P's. And really the way through it is the way through it. It's when we understand that, okay, let's look at our mother relationship, because the mother is such a pivotal, a powerful shaper of our existence in this body, in this lifetime. And when we really examine it, not from a blaming point of view, but from a reality point of view. Did I get everything that I needed as a child? Did I feel safe? Did I feel loved? Did I feel supported? Did I feel that I can be authentically me and still being loved and held by the mother? Or I didn't. Did I have to step up to be into an adult role? However it looks like, maybe looking after younger siblings, maybe earning money, maybe taking over some adult responsibilities, or did could I be myself? Could I grow in the way that spirit was destined for me, or did I have to adopt some false identifications, or I had to do certain things or do a certain behavior so I can get love? And if you did, then that took you away from your authentic self, because one of the primarily most important needs of any child, besides the obvious, besides safety and food and the housing, is to feel loved, belonged, and accepted. And if they don't, they will do anything and everything in their power to feel that. And that could be on the expense of their authenticity. And so that's why we unlearn, that's why we undo, because inside of us, we are our authentic self forever and evermore. We just have to get rid from all the masks and all the conditioning and all the habits and addictions and ways of coping that we inherited from our mothers. And of course, the others, the fathers, but the mother again is so powerful and pivotal. So this is the work, and yeah, I want to invite you now to ask any questions, so I can answer some questions if there are before we wrapping it up.
I have a question, if you can hear me.
And of course, laughing is also very healing, right? So I was talking about crying primarily, but laughing is also super healing. So I also invite you to laugh more, and however it looks for you, see a comedian, see a funny movie. And by the way, after crying, laughing immediately is even deeper. So the two of them goes very well together. And you can see young children, how they go so quickly from laughing to crying. So George, yes. Do you want to ask?
Can you hear me?
Yourself.
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? Hello.
Oh, wait. Let me see. Sorry.
I can hear you, but I don't know about you.
I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Are you unmuted? I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear George?
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Something with Zoom. I read the second chapter of the book with lots of interest. And I want to pick your mind regarding the divine feminine. Because I've been practicing Tantra for a number of years. And that involves lots of seminars, like discussions and things like this. And my impression on divine feminine was that it's somehow related to the fact that women are way more connected with nature than men. So they're much more sensitive to the cycles in nature, to the cycles of the seasons, to all these changes. And this is where the power of divine feminine comes from, apparently. And the way I was presented, the way I've learned this thing is that every woman has some mystical source of strength, insight, where this divine feminine comes from. But this source is kind of blocked in many, many women. It's like there's due to trauma and many other events that happen in their life, this link between the divine female energy and their mind is broken, it's severed. So once this thing gets, once a woman is able to tap into that source of female power, she becomes a priestess, she becomes like a fortune teller, a witch, a magician, or something like this. It's very powerful effect that opening that source has on a woman's life. But the way to open that source, the way I learned it in Tantra, is related to sexual energy in some way. So apparently sexual energy has the potential to break through these traumas and destroy the traumas and make the woman relate to this source and ultimately open that link with herself, with her female power, with the divine feminine. And that is the way, the path in which many women try to get onto. Now, the mother wound, and this is why when I read the second chapter, I can relate to that thing, but I want to see your opinion on what is the other path of opening this path to the inner feminine, to the female power, to empower women through breaking to traumas and connecting to their magical source of power, of wisdom, of all things that we discuss often.
Yeah, great point, George, and I completely with you in that our sexuality is who we are. It's our life source energy. It's sex is just part of our sexuality. It's the way we express it, right? The way we embody it. But our sexuality is who we are. It's our creative life force energy. And we also inherited the way we relate to our sexuality through our mothers, right? So it all comes together. If you read my chapter about sexuality, which is Chakra 4, the heart, and I talk about that connection to our sexuality, and I'm totally with you on that one. Our sexuality is also the source of our healing. So healing can come through the embodied practice of sexuality, which is Tantra. So you know, we are sexual beings. We have conceived in sex, and then we came to the world through our mother's vagina. So we have that still sexual link with our mothers, and it's really, really interesting. You know, I've got a teenage girl now, and it's you know, she's completely in her blossoming stage, and I witness it as a conscious mother, and I see what energy do I transmit her? What does she learn about sexuality from me, right? As her mother, you know, and so many mothers has been really even triggered or alarmed or confused by their daughters or sons' sexuality when it's blossoming. So all the messages that we received in our teenage years are also a very dominant part of who we are as sexual beings. And of course, if you look back and you look at history, and I mean, women's sexuality was intentionally suppressed and oppressed, right? I mean, having sex was a sin, and you know, to make Jesus in that story kind of the church in the attempt to make him a holy man, he couldn't have had sex. His mother couldn't have had sex, so she had to be a virgin. And Mary Magdalene, which was his lover and a priestess, just like him, a healer, had to become a prostitute, because how could they explain a loving tantric relationship without making sex a sin? So we all grew up in that at the back of our mind. And it's not so long ago that women were burning on the stake for being that priestess, magician, herbalist, fortune teller that you mentioned. So women are still working through their sexuality, and also through embracing and connecting to their power, because that power, when it's fully activated, is huge. And women are still scared to own it because of that persecution wound that is still there. So this is the work. And yeah, absolutely. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. But that triggered other questions. If no one has questions to ask, I may ask you something.
Right. So I just want to see. Yeah, so there are no other questions. So you may ask another question if you will, and we'll wrap it there.
Yeah, my question is in regard to this. I read studies, and I can relate to the studies, that women have been oppressed for a long part of the history. And some of the studies claim that a woman that is in touch with her inner feminine power is very scary to a man. And you know, in mythology, the heroes are not scared by taking on a fight, but they're all scared by witches and women that are related to this wild power that comes from their link with nature. And I guess in many cases, this is why witches were burnt, because in the witchcraft, the sexuality has a significant role. You know, like they always, when you read about witches, you see that they also have sexual rituals. But in fact, this is a way to connect with the wild nature, and this is a power that scares men. And I am interested in your take, but because like the things are being well studied now, you see that there are more and more women into the path of awakening. Like this thing has been studied, and paths have been developed into how you can heal that trauma and break and make women relate to their inner feminine, and that gives an incredible power to them. So that concerns me to such an extent, because I have a daughter, and we're seeing now how the women are raising in power in the entire world. I live in the States, and in the States we see how women get into power in many, many areas. So I'm interested in what is your take on this, because if you have the women raised into power and men kind of being thrown out of it in terms of like losing ground, and we're seeing this, there's a huge crisis between men in North America, like the manhood is in crisis. That thing eventually will backfire to women through their sons, you know, because women will raise sons and they will not have the warriors and the men who can support them. And this is also unhealthy. So what is your take on this rising power in women? Like, will that lead eventually to a redefinition of the sexes, of this balance of dynamics that we have? And isn't that dangerous? Like, isn't it dangerous to change? Like, for many, many millennia, the society was based on the patriarchal model. And it's not perfect. It's very far from perfect, but it worked. I mean, we survived and we moved forward. Now, if you change that balance, the consequences may be very unpredictable. I don't know where they may be, but they may be we may move to a matriarchal model or something like that. I don't know if a matriarchal model is healthier than a patriarchal model, you know? So what's your take on this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'd love to answer that. So when you talk about woman power, I don't talk about overpowering. I don't talk about women who take the men's balls and now they are the men, because this is all wounded power. This is not true feminine power. When I talk about true feminine power, I talk about tapping into that source of power of creation, not to undermine men, not to undermine our sons as women, but to cooperate with them, to co-create together. And I'm all for that inner marriage, inner and outer, between the feminine and the masculine. So in my knowledge, I know that we are emerging into that union that is so needed. I mean, what's going on at the moment with the gender, for me, it's craziness with what for me, my own personal take is really that it has to do with confusion and sexual wounds. I really, in my opinion, and sorry if I trigger anyone's emotions, because I know it can be sensitive, but for me, there's only the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And this is all that we have as human beings, but it can express itself in different ways, in different variations. So there can be a woman that will be more masculine and a man that will be more feminine, or in anything and everything in between. And that's okay. But what I'm saying is that for me, women in power is not women that now stepping over men and, you know, they going on the pedestal and they, you know, suppressing men, because this is, as you said, is just the opposite of what was happening up until now. This is not how the new era or the new world will look like, at least as I envision it, but in a more conscious way. So you mentioned first that women are more connected to the cycles because we are of cyclic nature, and more connected to nature because we are bringing, you know, we are the portals that bring in life into material form. And we have that direct link to the mystery that maybe is closer than men do. Generally, men can also be very connected through their feminine, but to that source, if their feminine is very awake. So it's not only women's over men, but there are differences between the gender, and there are very profound differences: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. And I think that these differences are amazing and should be celebrated. And I do not personally believe in all that feminism movement. I think it was necessary because those women were warriors that said, hey, enough is enough, fuck that shit kind of, message. And that was necessary because that's what could be understood by the men. But I don't encourage women to be like men or even better and wear the pants and be the men. No, women can connect to their power and still remain feminine, sensual, gentle, caring, nurturing, all of that without losing that. But they're powerful from the inside out without needing to overpower anyone else in the process. And when that will happen, when women will connect truly to their power, not because now they they you know, taking the balls, the men balls, and holding them, you know, tightly in their hands, when they also cooperate with their men and let their men, be the warrior, the guy, the guard, the protector, the provider, all those masculine beautiful qualities, you know, then the togetherness, the union is what can build a healthy new world. So yeah, that's my take.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Great. So if there's no any other questions, I want to wrap it up for today. Next time we will dive into the divine masculine and the father wound, and I'm sure that is relevant for some as well. And I want to take a moment and ask you, if you reading my book and you enjoying it, I will really highly appreciate if you can give me a review, honest review on Amazon. That will really help promote the book and get the book into more hands. So if you just go, the link is on my profile, my Facebook profile, and where you bought the book from. You just, it's one click and you can write a review, and I would really highly appreciate it. And sending you lots of love and Happy New Year. And I really here for your eyes, for your brilliance. And I really wish you that 2022 will be a profound year of growth and expansion and happiness and joy and manifesting of your dream life for you. So lots of love, and until next time. Thank you so much.